friends, Nokie here. Welcome to the Spice Up Your Intimacy YouTube channel. I am so excited about today's video. I'm sure a lot of you have heard or you have read the book entitled The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Grary Chapman, and probably some of you have explored the concept of the 5 love languages. So today's video is actually inspired by the 5 love languages, the book that I just read. Actually, I've been desiring to read this book for the longest time, and I don't know, for whatever reason I kept missing it on my Audible orders, but I finally got around to reading it. And in today's video I'm going to be talking about the 5 love languages and how it can impact or radically change your marriage, your relationship, and how it can spice up your marriage. It can even spice up your intimacy, your sexual intimacy in the bedroom. While the concept of the 5 love languages seems to be very simple, it is not just simple but very effective. It works, and if any of you have tried exploring or putting into practice the 5 love languages, which by the way are the emotional love languages that you or your spouse tend to gravitate upon or tend to respond better to, it is very effective, and hence why I decided to make a whole video about the 5 love languages. Now let's take the 5 love languages one at a time and just briefly talk about what it is, how it can affect you or your spouse, how it can improve your marriage, how it can spice up your intimacy and take your relationship to a whole different level. The first love language that I want to talk about is words of affirmation. So with words of affirmation, this is when you or your spouse enjoy or appreciate the words of affirmation. So for a person whose love language is words of affirmation, that means they understand or they love it when you say the words of affirmation, that is the words to encourage them, words of encouragement, words of affirmation. So you will realize that within these love languages there's also dialects, just like languages have dialects. Okay, let me rewind. Why is it important for you as a spouse to understand your spouse's love language? The way I look at it is like, say you travel to a different country where they don't speak English and you're speaking to them in English, maybe in a Spanish speaking country or in a French speaking country. It can be any language where the language that they speak is their primary language and they do not understand any other language apart from their primary language. For you to communicate and have your message heard and received, you have to speak the language that they understand. It is only this way that your message is going to be welcomed and received in a positive way. And also what is important is that within a language there are dialects. Same with the love languages. Each and every love language, according to Dr. Grary Chapman, and the way I really see it and understand it, is that within a love language there's also dialects. For somebody who understands or whose love language is words of affirmation, words of affirmation may be one dialect, and words of encouragement, when you give them encouraging words or when you affirm them, those are the dialects. The words of encouragement is a dialect of the words of affirmation. When you appreciate them, say for example you tell your husband how you appreciate the way they provide for the family or the way they do whatever they do, you're speaking their love language, and the dialect here is words of appreciation. And then when you encourage them with, say, maybe an assignment that they are working on or something that they might be interested in doing but they are doubting themselves, when you say the words of encouragement, that's a dialect. You're actually giving them words of affirmation that, hey, you can do it. I know you can do it. I know my husband does that quite a lot and I really appreciate it, because at times we need that word of encouragement, that word from a person that we love to say, hey babes, you can do this. With those words of encouragement can go a long way. So that's words of affirmation. We have to understand that within the words of affirmation there's dialects which may come as words of encouragement, words of appreciation, etc. Okay, moving on to the second love language. I'm just summarizing them up real quick, but I encourage you to grab the book, The 5 Love Languages. I got the latest edition, the updated edition, and I do audible books. Okay, the second love language is quality time. A person whose love language is quality time, they enjoy the presence of their spouse. They enjoy spending more time with their spouse. What the spouse does during that quality time is what is important. A person whose love language is quality time does not appreciate a spouse who is sitting with them and watching TV. That is not quality time, because instead of focusing on them or the conversation that you should be having with your spouse, they're actually watching TV and they're focusing or paying attention to the TV. So a person who appreciates or whose love language is quality time, they appreciate you giving them their whole attention. Give them your undivided attention. And quality time can also come in many ways, which is a dialect of the quality time love language. This can be just sitting and talking face to face with your spouse. It can be taking long walks with your spouse, holding hands or whatever. It can be just going out on dates and just spending time together. And as a result, the spouse whose love language is quality time, they so appreciate that. They'll express to you their appreciation, and your relationship, your marriage, your intimacy will definitely get better because they are receiving what they understand, what their love language is, and that is quality time. I tell you, I'm a big quality time person. I love quality time. It's very important. And another thing about the quality time is people whose love language is quality time, they love to build or create memories, and they'll be going back in time, and it's all about creating memorable moments with your spouse, and those are priceless. And with quality time, all you need is you have to sacrifice the time, give up some of the time, because we know that some women complain of their husbands working too much or spending too much time in the office or in their doing their business. So you have to be intentional when it comes to creating the moments that you're going to spend with your spouse. Give them that quality time and you'll see your relationship move to greater heights. Okay, moving on to the third love language, and this love language is receiving gifts. Oh yes, there are people who enjoy receiving gifts. Giving someone whose love language is a gift, it's for them, it's like, oh, you care for me, you thought about me, you really took time to buy this gift for me, and they enjoy and appreciate receiving gifts. You as the giver of the gifts, or the person who's supposed to be giving the gifts, it may not be your love language, but because you care so much for your spouse and you understand that their love language is receiving gifts, you'll take the time and buy them or give them a gift. Let me also say, it's not about how expensive the gift is, it's more about the thought behind the gift. It can be a gift that you have made, it can be a gift that you have handmade for someone who needs. I can knit a sweater for my husband, or knit a head gloves and scarf and give it to him. Because they appreciate receiving the gift, they know that I took the time to think about their love language, that of receiving gifts. They may love to be gifted, maybe even with a vacation. So it cannot even be physical product, but it is most importantly, it's about the thought. The thought is what matters. It's not about how expensive a gift is, because every single one of us, whether we have the capability of buying expensive or inexpensive gifts, we have something that we can give. We can give something out of love. It's all about the love. It's all about giving something that you know that your spouse is going to appreciate. You are giving them of your love, time, the thoughts. All those can be gifts. As I go on, you're going to realize that all the 5 love languages, they are intertwined, and their basic foundation is love. Okay, moving on to love language number 4, and that is acts of service. A person whose love language is acts of service appreciates you doing things for them. It can be anything: helping with chores around the house, taking care of the baby, changing diapers, serving them. So they enjoy you doing things. You're actually doing things that you would normally not do. just because you want to make sure that you are filling their love tank. The whole idea of the 5 love languages is to fill your spouse's emotional love tank. And a person who does acts of service, they'll actually do things in order to fill their spouse's emotional love tank, and it goes a long way. It can be simple things like preparing dinner, it can be making the bed, it can be going grocery shopping, it can be mowing the lawn, it can be removing the trash. Those things that you do in order to make your spouse's life easier, or just show them that you really care, you think about them, and that yes, their schedule may be busy, you want to help them. Understand that in that process you are actually filling their emotional love tank, because you are doing a service for them. That is the language that they understand. Of course, just like any love language, the dialects may be different. It depends on what you do for them. What you do for them is very important. That means you have to understand the things that your spouse appreciates and enjoys you do for them. Okay, I know my husband loves serving me. Oh my gosh, that guy, he loves serving me for more reasons than one. For me, that just is so beautiful. I love it. And I know I have I think I have multiple love languages, and that's okay. You can be bi or multilingual. That means you might have more than one love language, but there is one that will be more prominent than the others. Acts of service, gift receiving, quality time, those are my love languages. But I think if you ask me, I think quality time is the number 1 on my list. So basically, what you need to understand when you have a spouse whose love language is acts of service, the actual service that you give to them is what counts. And the thought of you serving them, doing the things that they appreciate and love you doing for them, that is what is more important. And you're expressing your love for them through that love language when you do the acts of service. It doesn't necessarily have to be your love language, but because you understand your spouse's love language, that's what is important. For a person whose love language is the acts of service, you have to understand what kind of service they'll appreciate. It's not just any dialect. You have to understand the things that they will appreciate. I'll give you examples. For someone who is a stay-at-home mom, they'll appreciate maybe the husband, of course, taking out the trash, getting the kids ready for bed, putting the babies to bed, reading them the bedtime story, maybe once in a while cooking for the family and stuff like that, taking those chores off her hands so that her life is much easier. That's the language they understand, and they will so appreciate it. When you do those acts of service for them, it is way better than bringing them flowers or buying them a gift, unless of course if they are bilingual, if they have 2 love languages and they are equally the same. So moving on to number 5. The number 5 love language, according to Dr. Grary Chapman, is physical touch. Ooh, yes. If you ask most men, they'll tell you that physical touch is their love language because of the sex aspect. Because sex and touchy it falls into the physical touch. So most men will just say physical touch, they'll just be thinking about the sex. Physical touch can be somebody's love language. They may enjoy cuddling, they may enjoy kissing, they may enjoy just holding hands, they may enjoy just being hugged. With physical touch, the most important thing is how you touch the person. You can touch them in a way that's inappropriate, and that is not the love language. So you have to touch the person in an appropriate way for them to appreciate and to receive that love language. So that is when cuddling comes in, intimacy, when the holding of hands comes in, when the hugging, when holding tight and stuff like that. That is physical touch. A person whose love language is physical touch, they enjoy the kind of intimate touches that you as the spouse gives them. Okay, and of course the sex aspect and the foreplay and all that, it all comes into play. So yeah, those are the 5 love languages. So you may be asking yourself, how do I know, or how can I discover my love language or my spouse's love language? Okay, when it comes to your spouse, you observe the things that they appreciate when you do. the things that they ask for, or your spouse may be a person who's able to express what they desire. If they express a particular desire that falls under the 5 love languages and they do that quite frequently, then that could be their love language. And some people, it depends on how they grew up, what they grew up seeing. In some instances, not always, that may determine their love language. Another neat thing that Dr. Grary Chapman does towards the end of the book is he lists 3 ways in which you can discover your love language. And the 3 ways in which you can discover your love language is, number 1, what are the things that your spouse has done or fails to do that hurts you deeply? Yeah, the opposite of that is true. Those things that hurt you, when it does them, the opposite of that is true. And then the second way in which you can determine your love language is, what have you requested most of your spouse? So that means the things that you keep requesting from your spouse, it may indicate your love language. I'll give you an example. If somebody says, if you say to your spouse, I wish you could spend more time together, I wish you could go away on vacation, that means you're yearning to spend more time with them. That is an indicator that quality time is your love language. Okay, if you're a person whose love language is receiving gifts, you may find yourself saying something like, you don't buy me this you never give me a gift for my birthday, you never do this, you never give me this. It's more about the gifts. You complain about receiving gifts. That's an indicator that gift receiving is your love language. And then the third way in which you can discover your love language is, look at the way you use to express your love towards your spouse. Like I said, I've got multiple love languages. For example, I love giving gifts. I love giving my husband gifts. That's one of my love languages, and I do understand too that that's his love language as well. So I will give him gifts, and I know that he appreciates each and every single gift that I give him, no matter how small. We tend to do the things that we desire the other person to do for us. So that's another way of discovering your love language. I really encourage you to pick up Grary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages, the latest edition, and you will be blown away with this simple but very profound concept of spicing up your intimacy, changing your relationship, taking your relationship to another level through understanding your spouse's love language and speaking the right dialect, and therefore filling their love tank so that you can see or receive the best of them. Because when we are both happy, when he is happy and when I am happy, both of us will enjoy the marriage or enjoy the relationship, and that translates to an amazing time in the bedroom.